You tearing up?
I mean, I'm pregnant, so
I don't know if that's the gleam of the light on your eyes or...
Welcome back to another episode from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Doc Jen.
And I'm Dr. Dom.
And today we're talking about our favorite health myths that we are going to tear down and kind of set the record straight. So first, welcome back to our new podcast set. What do you think? Let us know. Now, if you've been with us for a while, you've been seeing, it's changed since we first started. It was like on a physical therapy table to a couch to rigid chairs to now this, and it's probably going to change again. So you want to stick around and subscribe so you don't miss out on our podcast sets, but also because we have so many more information, education about the body and health to keep you moving and feeling great in your body. And it's not just these PT pearls that we do, but it's also just single videos, quick tips to really get you understanding and appreciating so that you can move and feel a little bit better. So make sure you subscribe, leave comments for anything else you want to see, or just if you love our podcast set,
So this is going to be a fun episode because we're going with no script, which I prefer. Jen, are you nervous?
No, I'm good. This is going to be fun.
And we're going to touch on some topics that might be a little touchy for people, or might trigger some things, because it's going to be 4 of our favorite health myths, or least favorite health myths.
Yeah, I know.
Myths that we hate and want to tear down. So not favorite, our favorite ones to crap on a little bit.
I know. And this is where you can find me getting a little fiery and passionate about some things. And it's because I think it's things that we've heard repetitively over time and something we have to keep explaining. And we're going to keep explaining these things forever, and that's fine. But if we can start to change the message around what they actually do and get people on the right track, then people can start to find solutions a lot faster.
Because there's always going to be just an abundance and an overabundance of information out there.
Yeah.
And there's going to be good information. There's going to be bad information. There's going to be information that has good intent.
Yes.
But sometimes we don't like exactly how it's explained or what it makes the person think or help somebody. Most people are in the profession of health or in the profession of physical therapy, rehab, to help people. But also the words that you use as a provider, the words that you use as somebody who's educating somebody in their body and in their health matter. And the things that we say can go with people for years and years and years. And so that's kind of why we want to touch on some of these topics and give our takes on them.
Yeah. And it's really cool to be able to see now, like the changes that I hear in people who have been with us for a while now doing the online program. So never have seen us in person, but have continued on the Gen Health journey or different challenges that we've done, and hearing them from the beginning, fearing pain, fearing different things that would come up. And then to now like, oh, I know what to do if this happens or if this happens. And they're no longer falling into these myths that we're going to talk about. And it's so empowering to be able to see these changes and see people have the tools and the knowledge and the education about their body. And even if pains or things come up, there's no freak out. There's just like, okay, here's what I'm going to be doing, and here's how I'm going to approach it, and here's how I'm going to keep moving. Because being able to lead people to a place that you can actually start to have management within your own health and within your own body, that's the key to longevity.
You're tearing up?
I'm pregnant, so
I don't know if that's the gleam
me.
of the light on your eyes, or we love to coach people and educate people into empowerment so they can find independence. So myth number 1, where you want to start?
Should I start with my favorite? That's very controversial.
I think you should.
Okay.
Not controversial in our minds.
Not controversial in my mind, and not something that needs to be like a line drawn in the sand, but the language around it is really poor. I need the adjustment to put me back into place. I need the adjustment. It's going to put my disc back into place. I need the adjustment. It's going to help my rotated hips. All of these statements are just not reality in what's actually physiologically happening within the body. And we did a podcast episode 90, that you can listen to, and it goes into a lot more detail and education on what adjustments and manipulations really are. Physical therapists use them as well. Wow, surprise for some people, right? And they have a time and place for sure. Yeah. And they can help along the pain journey 100%. I'm not against them. I'm against saying that it's going to put something back into place.
Like a disc being out of place is rarely ever even a thing. Like rarely ever it is a disc coming out from between, vertebrae and needing to be pushed back into place. So it's just all of this terminology that we really have an issue with. And like Jen said on episode 90, we talk about the benefits of manipulations and adjustments a lot more than we talk about like the issues that we have with it. Like I can breathe easy now. But no, you're getting all of these global and local benefits of muscle relaxation, some endorphins, some happy endorphins, happy juices that are starting to get injected into the system. And so that's what we want to speak into. It does give us this global relaxation that then you should be able to work with.
Yes.
That then the provider should come and say, okay, now let's do these core exercises to get you really working through your hip and through your core and transmitting all of your support through that.
Because if you're then having this happen, this adjustment, this manipulation, so that you feel so much better, well, then let's actually support what's happening off the table when you're moving that's making you not feel good. If we're not addressing the movement patterns that make you feel bad, and we're only addressing what's happening on a table passively, we're not actually helping you. It's not actually helping you. And I just want to reiterate that again and again and again. And there are incredible chiropractors that I love and I respect and I work with, and that get this concept, whether we work together or the chiropractor does it all, where they have that as maybe the help to access into the nervous system so someone can move better, and then the movement practice that happens after. And so it's not that I'm against chiropractic medicine. I love it. I'm here for, empowering the person. Okay, what happens once you feel that release of tension? What happens once you feel that release of pain? How do we get you moving into the areas that you were feeling pain before, whether that's even sitting or standing or laying down? We have to be a little bit more active in our treatment plan, because that's what's actually going to create some long-term care. And that noise that we hear, whether it's that crack, which I could do, I'm not getting any good cracks right now. Sorry. Oh, there you go. So whether it is that crack that, you hear, there are other ways to access that relaxation and that pain relief in the body without having to do that. So as long as you also know that.
Okay, first one that I want to dive into. Again, I'll say that I don't think that there's ill intentions in a lot of people who say this, but the whole, you can't let your knees go past your toes. Like, oh, you're having knee pain, don't let your knee go past your toe. Again, it's so half backwards in the thinking of, okay, well, this chair is pretty low. When I sit down in this chair, my knee needs to go past my toe. When I go up and downstairs, my knees need to go past my toe. Sitting down on the toilet, walking downhill. In all of these activities, your knees need to go past your toe to some extent. So again, if we train through every movement without letting our knee ever go past our toe, then we're not training ourselves for a functional, pain-free life. You're going to get to the point where you're walking down a hill and say, hey guys, I need to stay here until you come back because I can't let my knee go past my toe. There are reasons where for a short amount of time you might want to focus on not letting your knee go really far forward. If you have pretty excruciating acute knee pain, there are reasons that you might want to say, okay, I'm going to try and keep my knee stacked a little bit more over my ankle to put a little less pressure through it so I can squat and hinge a little bit more comfortably, and I'm just going to bring my chest forward more to get my bottom back to the seat. But again, as that knee pain calms down, then how are we going to train that knee to make it a more resilient, robust joint? So that as we get later in life, if we're going to have kids or if we're going to have grandkids, we can bend down and squat down to the ground and play with them, and we can lunge and get down on one knee and do all these things without having to have fear of having pain. Myth number 3.
Okay,
what do you got for us?
So this one is just a cue that I honestly used to use as well. And
you hypocrite.
I know. I'm saying that I have learned and I don't like it anymore. So this is a cue a lot of people use when you're doing core exercises laying on your back. It's to smash your spine into the ground. And for some people, this can work and this is okay. But for me, it might work better. For Dom, I honestly don't think it would work well because he has a little bit more lordosis within the back. So him smashing his spine into the ground is going to take a lot more force, which is going to put a lot more pressure up into the front of his abdominal region, which is just then working into it's dispersing pressures not well when we're doing core. We want to be able to disperse the pressures from our back to our front to our bottom with our pelvic floor and all the way out to the sides. But if I smash my back into the ground, a lot of times what happens is I end up bulging right in the middle of my stomach, which is that tissue that brings the rectus abdominis, that six-pack muscle together. But if I'm putting just so much tension through one area that I'm losing all the tension that I have throughout all my abdominal muscles in my pelvic floor. So I don't think that focusing on pushing the low back into the ground is actually an effective cue for correct core pressures. That leads into another myth, I guess. I could just a little bit touch
Lay
on.
it on
I
us.
know. It's just like I have anterior pelvic tilt. What do I do? Well, are you having pain? Is it decreasing your function in any way? Like if not, then
I mean, the podcast we did on that, like the statistics show that most people have some degree of anterior or posterior pelvic tilt. Most asymptomatic people have some degree of anterior or posterior pelvic tilt. Like rarely do people ever sit in this exact neutral position.
Sitting here thinking, then what do I do? One quick thing that you can do, and we can all do together, is just placing your hands along the low rib cage, whether you're laying down or sitting, and take a deep breath into your rib cage. And then as you breathe out, think of the pelvic floor doing like an elevator lift up to your rib cage. And as you lift up, you're thinking of just gradually dropping the rib cage and allowing the belly to come back as well with everything. So hip bone to hip bone is kind of getting tighter.
Oh, the last one. And I hope, again, I'm going to like preface and clarify and hedge what I say here because this could hit home for some people. But one of my least favorite things that I hear people say is, oh, that's genetic.
Oh, yeah.
About a lot of different things. Like, oh, I have a bunion. That's genetic. Oh, knee pain. Everyone in my family has it. That's genetic. Or, oh, I have rounded shoulders. That's genetic. Look at my mom. Look at my grandma. That's genetic. And so many other things that, you know, we've talked to a geneticist on the podcast. We've talked to people who understand this thoroughly. There is not, for most of these things, there is not just like one gene that is the bunion gene. Right? That's not a thing. Or there's not one gene that is the weak bone gene. Like, oh, osteoporosis, I just have that because it's genetic. Like, there are probably genetic predisposition and predisposing factors that might, again, increase our risk of developing these things, right? There's not a bunion gene, but there might be a gene that has to do with more laxity in our muscles and tendons. Or there might be a gene that has to do with difficulty developing stability around certain joints or whatever it might be that, again, might predispose us to start developing this. But again, when people just say it's genetic, what I've learned in all my studies and what I think most scientists would agree with me on, like there's this whole argument, nature versus nurture. Is it nature, our genetics, or is it nurture, the environment and the activities that we do and the food and the water and everything we put in our body, the messages we tell ourselves? Which one is it? It's not an either or conversation. It's always both. And when we say it's just genetics, we're ignoring complete whole factions of science that are epigenetics and nutrigenomics, which basically have to do with the things that turn our genes on and off. Epigenetics and nutrigenomics more so dealing with what we put in our body and how that activates or influences different genes. So whenever people say that's just genetic, like I always want to challenge them on it in a way that helps open up the understanding that there are still things we can do to reduce the risk.
Can we break out of our stubborn patterns just a little bit so we try something new?
Absolutely. And yeah, I didn't think that this was even going to come up, but I kind of want to just mention it because I haven't really talked publicly about this a lot, but I have a lot of addiction on my mom's side of the family. You know, I've lost 2 uncles because of addiction. My grandpa was an addict. My grandma's father committed suicide because of addiction. Like all the way through, almost every man on my mom's side of the family has addiction. And that is something that has different genetic traits that are linked with addictive behaviors and addictive tendencies. So again, do I just say like addiction, that's genetic, I'm just going to have it? No, actually just a couple days ago, as we're recording this, like I just hit a year of not having alcohol or any sort of cannabis product, which is super fun. And it's really cool.
Amazing.
And it's really cool to have gone that whole year because there were many periods in my life where I never could have imagined that. And even when I tell good friends of mine or when I'm out at weddings and stuff like that, and I just say like, oh no, I'm not drinking tonight. And they're like, oh really, why not? And it's like, well, I've actually been sober for over a year now. And I made an agreement with myself to do it for a year. And coming up to the year, I'm like, I don't even want to start considering it because of how my body feels, how healthy I feel, how my mind feels. And so again, do we blame the nature? Do I blame the genetics of my family and that everyone on my mom's side of the family is an addict and so it's just going to be something that's part of my life? Or do I continue to try and have more awareness and develop different behavioral patterns in my life and set myself up with systems and people around me that are going to support different choices? And there's definitely ways we can shift that script because there have been periods in my life where I felt like I was going to slip down that rabbit hole really fast.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to say congratulations, babe.
Thanks, baby.
It is so incredible to be able to witness that and you take action.
I'm crying.
Now you're crying.
The myth itself is meant to be the quick fix and the excuse that we just don't agree with. And our answer or our explanation is a very not sexy version of how to solve that over time and continue to work on it for decades into the rest of your life. So again, like consistency breeds change. Consistency breeds new behaviors and development of new behavior patterns. And that's really what we're all about. That's really what this podcast is about, is helping teach people how to have that openness and awareness that you can start to develop different patterns in your body. You can start to develop different behaviors and exercises. And as long as you stick with it consistently, you might not notice drastic change in the first week or month or maybe even year, but over a lifetime, like that's when we start to move the needle. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Is there anything that you liked or resonated with you? Anything that you disagree with or hated about the myths that we hate? If so, comment below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all the future podcasts and videos that we come out with to continue to help you find your optimal body.